You've probably heard of step 4 in AA, but how does this apply to codependency recovery? That's what we're going to talk about today. Why doing a step 4 inventory is essential in your codependency recovery. But first, if you're new, my name's Michelle Ferris. I'm a psychotherapist and I love helping people create relationships that work. So what is a 4-step inventory? It's basically taking a fearless and moral inventory of yourself. And if that sounds a little scary, don't worry about it. I want you to take what you like and leave the rest. You may only want to start with one aspect of your inventory today. Maybe you're super motivated to look at your fears or your resentments or your relationship patterns. You get to pick, but let's get started. So the 4th step is not about beating yourself up and looking at all your flaws. It's kind of like cleaning house. Part of doing an inventory is assessing what's working in your life and what aspects of your past are still impacting you today. An inventory is not about changing everything all at once. It's not about doing a 50-page book. It's about increasing your awareness about your own behavior in your own life. And I'm going to show you exactly what you can do today to get started. Now, if you're codependent, there are certain challenges you may be facing in doing your inventory. The first one is maybe you're not good at looking at your own behaviors. You're much more focused on what other people have done to hurt you. That's okay. You can actually include that in your inventory, and I'll show you how in a bit. But most people who are codependent are really good at knowing what other people are doing wrong, but we may not understand our own dysfunctional behavior. I know for me, my first inventory, I didn't think I did anything wrong. I thought everybody hurt me because I was such a people pleaser and I was so nice that I couldn't see my defects of character yet, and that's okay. Again, this is a process. The steps are really meant to be done more than once because you'll revisit them maybe in a couple of years when you're further down the road in your recovery. They're not meant to be done only one time because how you feel right now is going to be vastly different than how you feel 5 years from now. So another common codependent challenge we have is taking responsibility for what other people have done. Maybe you take too much responsibility for what your adult child has done or what your family says and does because you think it's a reflection on you. Part of this inventory is about you and your life, not what other people have done. But part of our codependency is we may feel responsible for what other people have done in their life, and I want to reassure you that that's not the purpose of this inventory. Another challenge that you may face is acknowledging your strengths. This is a very important part of step 4 because we don't want to just look at what isn't working and what's been painful for us. We also want to take the time to acknowledge accomplishments we've made in our life. We never want to do an inventory that's focused solely on the negative because that's going to be a Debbie Downer and nobody wants to volunteer for that. Part of what the challenge is in our codependency recovery though is to be able to feel comfortable acknowledging our strengths. So here's a simple way to start your 4-step inventory. The first is I want you to get out a journal. If you can buy one specifically for this purpose, that would be awesome. Make it a little special. And then what we're basically going to be doing is some journal writing. And I'm going to give you some prompts along the way. So the first one is I want you to write a list of fears. Whether you fear being abandoned, whether you fear not being enough, you fear riding on airplanes, I want you to get it all on paper. Don't think too much about it because part of this writing process is for you to just let it out. Don't judge it, don't correct it, just write it. So the first step is writing your list of fears. You may be surprised at how much fear you're carrying. The other thing I want you to do is I want you to write how these fears have impacted you. Sometimes when you see the fears on paper, it may help you realize what's actually true for you and what are those fears that really aren't true anymore. I always like taking my fears through the acronym false evidence appearing real. And after you read your list of fears, I want you to go through them and say, are these based on any type of evidence at all? Because most of them probably won't be. And that's going to help ease some of these fears. Because recognizing that these fears aren't actually true can really relieve your stress. Now, the next thing I want you to do is I want you to write a list of resentments. All the people that you have resented over the years that maybe you've never said anything to directly. Now, I also have a very specific 5-step process that I will attach if you want another resource for this, because it's super important when you're working on resentment to do 2 things. 1, write the uncensored version where you tell everything of what they did to you, how you feel about it, how it impacted you. And then the hard part is to look at how you could have contributed to that resentment. And I know this is the hardest part, but that's the part that usually transforms the resentment. The next part I want you to look at is any relationship patterns. You may look at relationships where you tend to attract alcoholics, or you tend to attract people who take, or you may attract people that aren't emotionally available, or maybe they're narcissistic. Because part of this inventory is to assess where your relationships are right now. Who's supportive, who's not, who's even toxic that you may need to let go of. I also have my relationship checklist that is going to help you more thoroughly. If you need that, I'll put that in the description as well. The next thing you might want to inventory is any big mistakes you know you've made, where they're kind of in the background of your head a lot, where, oh God, I wish I hadn't done that. But you need to forgive yourself. You need to get it out on paper and move on. When I've inventoried my mistakes, it's always helped me have a little more compassion for myself. It helps me let go of that negative self-talk that can really damage our self-esteem. The next thing you can inventory is any significant life experiences that really hurt you. This might include aspects of child abuse, any traumatic experiences, really anything that has majorly impacted you in your life. Maybe this was a death of a parent at a young age, or being bullied in school. Now, some of these experiences you may want to consider getting additional therapy for, but in terms of the inventory, it's basically a process of just writing down those experiences and how they're still impacting you today. Now, the last part of what you can inventory is your strengths. This is super important. I want you to literally spend time writing down what is unique about you. What do people love about you? What are your traits and unique characteristics that people admire about you? What are your accomplishments? Have you won any awards? We really want to inventory everything that's good about you, because sometimes in our codependency recovery, we really forget to acknowledge what we've done. We're so focused on fixing the problem and trying to feel better that we forget to acknowledge the work we've done along the way and who we are as unique people. Because I guarantee if you and I sat down for coffee, I would be able to see and acknowledge what's unique about you. And I want you to be able to include that in your inventory, because that's going to help your self-esteem. So how do you do this without being overwhelmed? Pick one area you want to inventory first. Maybe you want to start with a resentment. Maybe you want to start with a relationship pattern because you notice you keep attracting the same kind of friend over and over again. You don't have to do it all in one fell swoop. The other thing is, if you're already in codependency recovery, it's really ideal to do this with a sponsor, because if you're going to Al-Anon or Coda or any type of 12-step program, Step 5 is sharing this inventory with a trusted member of the program. And that can be incredibly healing in your recovery. I've done this several times, and I've always had really loving sponsors that never say a word about my inventory, but they just nod their head and go, "You're not alone." And that's part of the healing process too. So ideally, if you're doing codependency work, I would definitely invite you to check out Al-Anon or Coda so that you can work through the steps with a sponsor. Another real quick tip is be honest but not brutal. This is not an exercise of picking yourself apart. It's really being able to look at what you've said, what you've done in your life that you'd like to let go of. Because we've all made mistakes and you're no different. And it takes so much courage to do this work. I know for me, when I'm acknowledging my mistakes, it doesn't feel good, but after I do it, I feel lighter. I feel like, oh, you know what? I'm not a bad person. I'm just human. And that's what doing an inventory can give you, is just that reassurance that yes, this is hard work, but you are human. And your strengths, your mistakes, your patterns all make up who you are as a person. And that's why we don't want to see the inventory as something negative. We want to see it as something as part of our healing process. Now, the next step I want you to do is go watch my video on how 12-step programs work, because that is your next step. Thanks so much.